Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? So, happy Friday. Firstly, one second, let me fix that. Okay. It's happy Friday. I am so excited to be here with you doing this reading. And before I get into it, I just kind of want to share something with you. That's been really interesting. And when I pulled these cards, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So this has been a week, and in a good way, just like a lot of things have been coming up, and I've just been like, oh, what's that? like things I wasn't even necessarily consciously aware of. So I want to share, because I talk about the subconscious and shadow work all the time, obviously. But I just want to kind of share with you like a personal example of this. So our subconscious mind is always working to what it sees as our benefit, right? For example, when things happen to us when we're little, or just not mentally and or emotionally prepared to heal things, it will repress memories. So it almost like it hides those memories from us until we're ready to heal them, and then it brings those things up. So that's why if you've ever had those types of repressed memories or had memories where you were like, holy shit, like, why am I thinking of this now? Like, where is this memory coming from? It's your subconscious way of saying like, hey, we're ready. Now we're ready to heal this. We're ready to look at this. Like, we have all the emotional, physical, mental tools in order to deal with it. But on a conscious level, we're not really giving ourselves enough credit. We're just like, oh no, I'm not ready to deal with this. I don't want to look at this. This is painful, right? And so we continue to avoid, and then our subconscious will continue to like tell us, no, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready, by continuing to bring up the memories or the feelings, So just kind of interesting. So I had a reading a few days ago with a friend who is a super amazing reader, and sorry, there was just like a weird sound that happened right now. And she and I have, like worked together before, and I'd never received a reading from her. And so I got a reading from her, and she brought up some things that I was like, holy fuck, like I haven't thought about that since it happened. Like in many years, right? So it brought up a lot of things for me in all positive ways, of course, but it was just kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that I was compartmentalizing or whatever, because it was things that I was like, oh, wait, I don't eat. Like, I honestly, when she was telling me about this, I was like, I don't remember that. And I was like, oh God, yes, I do remember that. So just like things that I had sort of logically, did the steps to move past it, but have to go back and heal on an emotional level because I didn't do that. So just a reminder that none of us is perfect, and we all have things to work on all of the time. The healing never ends. And we can see that in a way of like, oh, that sucks. Like, it's never ending. The work is never done. Like, does that mean I'm never healed? Like, no, of course that's not what it means. Like, but you can look at it in that sort of negative Nancy perspective, or you can see it as, I get to do this work for myself because I deserve it, because I deserve healing, because I deserve release and forgiveness, and to move forward and take with me all of these amazing tools, experiences, lessons, etc., that I learned from all these things. So like I said, just a reminder that it's always happening all the time, and I've been doing this work for a really long time, and there's still things that I'm looking at from completely different perspectives now. And to me, that's the beauty of it, because we can keep learning, keep taking away things that are going to help us in our experiences in the present and moving forward. And that's the whole fucking point, isn't it? Like, no, you can't change the past. There's nothing to change, because all of those things that happened led you to where you are right now. And all we can do is look at the past and use it to our advantage, to our benefit in this very moment, right? And that's how we make those changes. So we can change, in terms of changing the past, we can change how we see past events. We can change how we feel about past events. But there's no point in worrying about how can I change the past. Like, well, if XYZ hadn't have happened to me in the past, hey, Melissa, if XYZ hadn't happened to me in the past, then my life would be different right now. But is that ultimately the truth? And that's what I want you to ask yourself. Is it ultimately the truth that if those things hadn't happened to you, that your life would be different? Or is it true that despite those things having happened to you, for you, your life can still be different regardless, right? Because the past doesn't matter. And the reason that I say it in that way is because it doesn't have to have an effect in terms of, well, if that hadn't happened, then my life would be different right now. It doesn't have to have that effect. It only means what you make it mean, right? So if you can look back on those things and say, well, wait a minute, let me just change my perspective on this. Let me take a step back and ask myself, okay, these experiences, while they did not feel good, right, in the moment as they were happening, what can I take away from them? What was I supposed to learn from this? What tools, what knowledge can I take from these things? Because when you do that, then you kind of are changing the past in a way. You're changing how you feel about it now. You're changing the meaning it has to you now, because right now is what actually matters. Because you can say all the time, like, well, if that hadn't happened, I would be in such a different place. If that hadn't happened, things would be better. But that's not really ultimately the truth, is it? Because you still have the opportunity to change and make things better, make your life different right now, even though these things happened, right? And that's the point of healing. Not, I am stunted or at a detriment because these things are in my past, but I am at an advantage. I have things to learn. I have things to share. I have different ways to grow because of them. So just a little thing that kind of came through that was really interesting to me, that I was just like, wow, like, we need to stop looking at our past and our ego and all those things that we see as negative, and we need to start looking at them in a different light. Because the more we continue to focus on these things in a bad way, the more we're always going to see them that way. And I gave this analogy yesterday in the group coaching course, and I told them, listen, if you're looking at a house standing from the front yard, and you're always looking at this house from the exact same spot in the front yard, does that mean that that is all there is to the house? Or does it mean that there's a whole other 360-degree view you can get? Does it not mean that there are 3 other sides to that house, and the interior and behind it, right? Like, or does it mean that there's only that facade, that front side to the house? So think about it from that perspective. If you are always looking at something from your past or your recent past, whether it was, a long time ago or just a few months ago or last year or whatever, if you're looking at these past events from the same perspective always, how are you going to get something new from them? If you're always looking at it from exactly the same way, how can you take away something new? If you're not looking at it from a fresh perspective, with fresh eyes, with an open mind saying, okay, how can I see this differently? Help me see this differently. What if I stand over here? What if I walk all the way around? How can I see it now? What can I take away from it now, right? So just remember that there's always something positive for our benefit that we can take away, even from the things that seem the most horrible to us or the most negative, or that we have the most unresolved negative emotions around. There is still something good that we can take from those things, but we have to see it differently in order to be able to extol those virtues and extract the lessons that we're supposed to from all of these things that have happened, right? So, our card for the day is the Page of Cups, which is perfect, is it not? So the Page of Cups, I always see pages as like they're in practice all the time, right? That's what a page is. Before the page graduates to the knight, the page is in practice. The page is learning. The page is open to all the experiences, open to all of the opportunities, because the page is like, hell yeah, when I get all this, gain all this knowledge, when I do all these things and I keep practicing, I get to be the knight, right? When I think of pages, I always think of the sword and the stone. But anyways, so we are the page, right? So we have to be, well, we don't have to be, but I invite you to be open to all of the things, not just how you always look at it, not just from this limited perspective of putting labels, right? Because we're putting labels on everything all day long at a subconscious level, because that's what our subconscious does, right? It's like, okay, so this is bad, this is good, this is neutral, this is whatever. So we're putting all these labels on things, whether we consciously realize it or not, all day long. So take the time to be present. Take the time to say, okay, how am I practicing? What am I practicing? What is it that I'm trying to graduate into? What is the next step that I'm looking to take? Is it in my career? Is it in my relationship? Is it in my personal growth? Like, where is it that I'm looking to graduate to the next level, right? Because in order to do that, I have to be in this page energy. And part of being in page energy is to be open and exploratory and be willing to see things differently, be willing to look at things from this perspective of, I don't have to put a label on this. I can just take it for what it is. Whether it's an experience, whether someone says something to us, whether we read something, or, we have this like kind of incredible synchronicity, like take it all for what it is. See how you can use it in your life, because there's so much that goes on in our lives that we kind of like dismiss or bypass or don't even give a second thought that we could actually be using to our benefit in order to move forward. And the page is especially open to that, because the page wants to learn. The page is like, hell yes, give me all the things. I'm really open because I want to move forward. And I want to see how I can use all of this to my benefit to make what I have now even better, even bigger, even more, even, more of what I want. So the Page of Cups obviously being about our intuition and our emotions and our internal experience. How can you utilize your internal experience to create the reality that you want? And that is like a really big thing that sometimes we don't realize. We see external sources as the end all be all in terms of what creates our reality. We see our external reality and think, okay, so this is inherently reality, and I am emotionally reacting to those external things. But my friends, this is not true. What is actually happening is our internal experience is creating our external reality. What you see outside of you is a direct reflection of what is happening within you. And I know we talked about this last week or the week before, but when you notice things happening that maybe you're like, oh man, like I was kind of hoping that wouldn't happen, or, feeling like, oh great, that is happening the way I wanted it to. It's not because it's random, not because it's chance, but because your internal experience is influencing how you interpret the world outside of you. That's how it works. And the way it happens is our subconscious programming is filtering all 2.3 million bits of information that are coming in at any given moment in time. We're only taking in 126 bits of information from that 2.3 million that's surrounding us right now. And our subconscious filters that based on the existing programming that we have running right now. So when we can be present in how we are creating our reality, in what is happening and showing up for us in the world outside of us, then we can ask ourselves, how can I be a cause for this? How can I take this and utilize it for my personal good? Especially when it's a situation that maybe we don't feel great about, that maybe we're like, that kind of sucks or whatever, right? So the Page of Cups is here to remind you, you have the power to create your own reality. And part of playing with that is being present, being open, exploring and having fun and being adventurous with the things that are going on outside of you and with the things that are going on inside of you, right? And use your emotions, use your visualization, use your intuition to create something outside of you. Do it small, do something little, right? And then move bigger. And this is a really great way to grow your intuition as well, especially if you feel like, I don't really use my intuition that much, or I don't know how to connect to my intuition, or I don't know when I'm hearing my intuition. What I always tell my clients is the way to get into a connection with your intuition and know the difference between ego and intuition. Well, the first way is intuition feels good. It feels right. And your ego often feels like shit. Your ego will limit you in so many ways, and we often mistake it for our intuition. And so when you receive a message, an internal message or a nudge to do something, notice how it feels. Does it feel limiting or does it feel limitless? Does it feel advantageous and open and all of these good things? Or does it feel small and in a box and kind of shitty? So that's the biggest way to tell the difference between when you're hearing your intuition and when you're hearing your ego, right? So to connect better and know better the voice of your intuition, because that's something that I wish I could explain better, but I just don't have the words for it. So I know what my intuition sounds like. So when I hear these messages, receive these things, I know what it sounds like in the voice of my intuition versus in the voice of my ego, right? So to get to know that voice of yours better, you have to rely on it. And we always say, oh, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to do that. But I want someone to explain to me how the fuck we try. Let me give you an example. Okay, I'm gonna use this. Okay, so the card is in my hand. How can I try to pick it up? Either I pick it up or I don't pick it up. I guess I could sit here and think of all the ways in which to do it, but I'm not actually doing anything. So as the great Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. So rather than saying, well, I'm going to try to be a little bit more present, I'm going to try to listen to my intuition more, connect with my intuition more, stop saying try. Do it or don't do it, but be honest about it. Because when we say try, I'm going to try to do that, what we normally mean is I'm going to think about it, but I'm probably not actually going to do it, depending on what it is. And that's fine. But be honest with yourself. Say, no, I don't really want to do that. Doesn't that feel better than saying I'm going to try when you really know what you mean is no? So rather than saying try, remove try from your vocabulary and do it. Just do it, right? That's how we begin anything, is by doing. So taking the first step towards connecting to that intuition, that inner voice, our inner compass, is essentially utilizing it. Okay. So for example, when I'm driving, this is a big one. When I'm driving, if I get an intuitive nudge to go a different way than I normally go, even if the way I normally go is the fastest, easiest route to get there, I will listen to that nudge, even if it means I have to go out of my way to get to where I'm going. So that's just a super easy way of utilizing your intuition daily with little tasks that you're on autopilot doing most of the time anyways. But you become present when you do get those feelings. You become present to those intuitive hits. And most of the time we ignore them. I could say, well, I just really want to go straight and get this over with. And I don't want to have to go way the fuck out of my way to get to where I'm going, right? I could do that, of course. And there's definitely times where I have. But what is it hurting really for you to just listen, right? Because you're really only doing good by listening. Because when you listen, you're taking the action towards building that relationship with your intuition or whatever it is that you're doing, right? You're taking the action, you're being in practice to that thing. Let's continue on with the example of your intuition. So the more that you utilize it, the more you are in actual practice, in action, the more you're going to be able to see that grow. So it's just like a muscle, right? If you're going to the gym every day, you're going to build your muscles. If you're not, and you're just kind of hanging out doing nothing, those muscles are going to decrease, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of whatever. I don't go to the gym. But you know what I mean, right? When you utilize something, when you flex a muscle, figuratively or literally, you're growing that skill. You're growing that thing. So continue to use those things. Be open, be adventurous, explore new ways of seeing things. And that is really that page energy, of openness and receptivity, because how the fuck else can we receive anything if we're closed off? If we're walking around in a little box all day long, completely shut out from everything, how the fuck can we receive what we're trying to call in? We can't. It's just like sitting outside waiting for us to take our walls down, remove ourselves from this box. We have to be open to receive. Otherwise, we ain't going to receive, right? That's how it works. So I want to share one more card with you. This is personally one that came up for me, but the 6 of Cups. And this kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier in terms of going back to your past and seeing how you can utilize that to your benefit, right? Because the 6 of Cups is saying there is so much to be gained from your past. Look at all of this, all these pretty little flowers and how lush it is in that card. It is beautiful, right? And so if we can just have that outlook on it, that sure, there are things in my past that were painful. But those things can be good and beneficial and beautiful just as much as the things that were good and beneficial and beautiful in the moment were, right? Like everything can be amazing. And it's just about taking away those things that we were meant to learn from it. And the thing about it is that little you, right? Or the version of you who still lives in that experience that you had, or those experiences that you've had, is waiting for present you to acknowledge them, right? And like so much of our lives as adults is about reparenting ourselves. And part of doing that is going back to those old versions of us and giving ourselves the love, attention, acknowledgement, validation that we were waiting for from other people in those experiences, in those moments, right? So do that for yourself, because the more you wait for someone else to do it for you, the more you wait for someone else to heal you or fix you or whatever, honey, you are going to be waiting for fucking ever, because no one can do that for you. You do that for you. Like, that's really what this card is all about, is about going back, being what you needed in those moments so that you can collect on that love, that validation, the acknowledgement, all of that stuff that maybe you felt like you were missing from that time in your life, right? Because this is how we get to a feeling disappointment. When we leave our healing, our growth, love, value, when we leave that shit up to other people, we are disappointed every fucking time. And the reason for that is when we say, like, I just want to be happier. I just wish you would love me this way. You love you this way. You make you happy. That's not anybody else's job. And the more that you leave that up to other people, the more you are going to be disappointed and feel pissed off about the world. But if you're not giving that to yourself, how in the world could someone else do it? If you don't even know what you want or how to give it to you, how can you expect someone else to, if they have no idea, right? Because you have no idea. So it's like saying, buy me the perfect present. Well, okay, what is the perfect present? Well, I don't know, just buy it for me. Okay, well, what the fuck is it though, right? Like, how would I know what it is to get you if you don't even know? So remember that it all starts within you first. When you heal, when you give yourself what it is that you are seeking, you're not going to be looking for it anymore. Because you're not going to be walking around with an empty cup looking for people to fill it. You're going to be able to pour that shit yourself. And that is where freedom and healing and fulfillment and happiness, true happiness and joy and change and transformation and growth actually fucking comes from. It has nothing to do with other people or the outside world, because you are creating your own reality within yourself. The reality we know outside of us is a fucking illusion, basically, because we're all just creating it of our own accord, individually. And that's why we see things differently, right? That's why every single one of us is having a different experience. So, I've been on a ramble for a long time now, but I hope this is helpful. If you would like a private reading, you can always reach out to me. I am here for it. But for your homework, what I want you to journal about is, where in my life have I been looking externally for validation or love or healing or whatever else it is that you've been looking for to feel fulfilled within yourself? So where have I been looking externally for these things, or for this thing, whatever it is, like I said. And then I want you to write about, okay, so these are the things that I've been looking externally for. How can I give this to myself? How can I fulfill these needs for me? Okay. The other thing I want you to write about is how can I be more open to receiving what the universe is trying to give me? How can I be more open and perceptive and receptive to everything that I am calling in at a subconscious level? How can I see things? How can I see that everything is happening for my benefit? How can I use what happens to me for my advantage, right? Because everything is happening for you. And that's all. So, lots to journal on, obviously. But anyways, if you have any questions, let me know. And I will be posting the training, which will be taking place on June 3rd, which is a Monday. I haven't decided the time yet, but probably 2:30 Pacific time. But I'm going to be posting in the group as a little event. I'm going to give you the time and what we're going to be talking about. But I'm so super excited for that. So be on the lookout for that. And like I said, if you have any questions, I am here for you. I love you. Have a very good weekend. Let me know how you go on your journaling. If you get stuck, let me know. I'll give you some more prompts. Okay? Love you.